Okay, good morning, everyone. We're continuing in the Zera Shimshon. We're in Parshas Kiseitze. We're in Ois Gimel. Before we begin, we have to acknowledge that today is the yard site of the Zera Shimshon. Rabbi Shimshon Chaim ben Nachman Michal Nachmani. And we ask that the learning that we're going to do today and the learning that we're going to do throughout the year from his Sefer should be Li'ulei Nishmos the Baal Zera Shimshon. And we ask that the tefillah, that the promise that he gave in the beginning of his Sefer, as we know that unfortunately the Zera Shimshon's only son passed away at 18, and he had nobody to continue his derech, nobody to learn for him, to be mamlitz for him, to help him be oilazine in Gan Eden. So we ask that our learning should be a schus for his neshama, and we know that a tzaddik never leaves a debt unpaid. So therefore, befrat, on the day of a yard site, or in Shemayim, they give a tzaddik more attention to his bakashas, to his tefillos. So we ask that he should intercede on our behalf, and to be mali mishalas libenu. We ask he should be melos yosher for us. All the more so as we know, growing up, I never heard of the Zera Shimshon. I think most people never heard of the Zera Shimshon. For 150 years, it was a sefer that was unknown to most of Klal Yisrael, and for reason that only in Shemayim they know, the last 15 years, Baruch Hashem, the Sefer has marbir mafritz throughout Klal Yisrael. This is the command. Nobody that has not heard of the Zera Shimshon or have not at least seen something about the Sefer, the Zera Shimshon. So you see that in Shemayim they wanted the Sefer to be marbir befrat in our days. There's a connection that we have to learn from the Sefer, because otherwise Hashem would not have allowed the Sefer to be mafritz, to spread out so much in the last 15, 20 years. And all the more so that this tremendous chidushim, this tremendous divrei Torah, which we can all learn from, as we're going to see in the following siman that we're going to learn. So it says, Brachas Parakama, Or V'yochim Hashem Shem Yinichai, Kosher Tarbas Ra, Soich Beis Shalatam. Great or difficult is a child that goes on a bad way in someone's house. The pain, the difficulty, the tsar is worse than Yosef Mecham's Gog Magog, even greater than the war of Gog Magog. Shenema, how do we know this? Because it says Mizma LeDavid Bevarchai. It says that when David HaMelech is talking about, he's saying to Tehillim on the Maisa, where Avshalom is trying to kill him, he said a mizmar when David was running away from Avshalom. V'ksiv b'asrei Hashem marab etzarei. How great are my tormentors, right? How great or how many are my tormentors? So when describing Avshalom, he calls him a tormentor, a tzarei. V'ilu gabi mechem Gog Magog ksiv lama rak shugoyim. But when it comes to Gog Magog, he doesn't describe the goyim as tormentors. David HaMelech describes them simply as goyim. V'ilu rabbi tzarei like siv. And Rashi explains, Lama Rok Shugoyim, that David HaMelech means to say, what benefit do the Goyim have to try to gang up in Klal Yisrael? Which seems to indicate that it's a Davar Kal, the Gog Magog is not going to be anything. Because by saying the Goyim are not going to accomplish anything, seems to indicate that the time period of Gog Magog will be a very easy time, whatever that means, or at least in comparison to the tsar, to the difficulty that he had from facing off with Avshalom. So all the Rishonim ask on Rashi, what is Rashi adding that the Gemara didn't already tell us? The Gemara already told us that what? That the difficulty of Avshalom is greater than the difficulty of Gog Magog. Rashi says, how do we know that? Because David HaMelech seems to say that the Goyim will not gain anything from trying to gang up in Klal Yisrael. So the Mefarshim ask, I already know that because it doesn't say the word Sarai. So what's Rashi coming to add? The second question is from the Marsha, that David HaMelech, when describing Avshalom, says, Ma Rabu Tsarai, how great, how many are my tormentors? And David HaMelech repeats himself and says that he has many tormentors. So Marsha seems to indicate that that's a repetition in David HaMelech's description of his situation with Avshalom. First he says, how great or how many are my tormentors? and I have many tormentors. So what's the difference? What's the David HaMelech adding by repeating twice that many people are trying to cause him tsar? Yesh loyma shezeh yuvan b'mash noida bechevlei Mashiach yutzaris merubel Yisrael. We know that during the days of Chevlei Mashiach, during the days of Gog and Magog, there will be tremendous tzaras in Klal Yisrael. A purification after purification, which means Hashem has to send us tzaras in order for us to do tshuva. One tshuva will not be enough. We will need to have multiple tshuvas. B'perek Chala, it says, Yosei v'lo yachimenu, b'toikef atzaros, and due to the depth of the tzaros, the heaviness of the tsar, it's impossible that somebody from Klal Yisrael would not go off the derech. And this is actually what they want to accomplish. Let's cut off their cords. Let us have them throw away their connection to Hashem. They may not say it openly, but what the Gaon want is ultimately that we should turn away from Hashem. We should convert to their religion. And Mashiach ben Yosef Asalamos befrat the Mashiach ben Yosef is supposed to die ben Mechamazu ki diisa v'sech the sukkah. V'hinei af b'David shebarach mipnei Avshalom amrinu per Chala v'hi David ba ad harosh. Even David HaMelech, when he was running from Avshalom, it says in Sanhedrin Daf Kuv Zayin that David HaMelech came to the mountain asher yishtach v'usham l'Elokim. Rabbi Yehuda Marav. Rabbi Yehuda Marav says an amazing thing. He says an amazing thing on this pasuk. He says that Bikesh David lavoid avodah zara, that David HaMelech wanted to serve avodah zara. So great was the tsar that he had from Avshalom trying to kill him, that it seems to be, which we really have to understand, it's not the scope of the shir right now, that David HaMelech wanted to serve avodah zara. Amalei Chushei Ha'arachi. Chushei Ha'arachi was one of David's advisors. It says Yomer Melech Kamaischa, the great king like you, was one of the four legs of Hashem's kisei, that there's no one that Hashem loves more than you who will do such a thing, right? You were outcast from your family. You were sent to the desert on your own. You had to face off animals. You were the embarrassment of your family, Chusha Harachi tells David HaMelech, and you never once thought, even for a moment, not to abandon Hashem. And now, you're going to serve Avodah Zarah? A king like me should kill his son. I'd rather do Avodah Zarah, said David HaMelech, than have to kill my son. What David HaMelech is saying is, I have two tzaras. I have one tsar that my son is trying to kill me, said David HaMelech. The other tsar is that I'm trying to destroy my neshama because of that. The great tsar that I have, when David HaMelech said Ma Rabu Tzarai, he's referring to the tsar that his neshama has. And it says Rabim Kamim Alai refers to the tzaras haguf that Avshalom wants to kill him. So we still have to understand why, when it comes to Mecham's Gog and Magog, which we know is very severe, why didn't David HaMelech say the same thing? Ma Rabu Tzarai by Gog and Magog. As we explained, that the tsar of Gog and Magog will be so great that it will also cause people of Klal Yisrael to go away from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. David HaMelech says that it's not that David HaMelech was saying that the tsar of Avshalom is great and the tsar of Gog and Magog is not great. Rather, he's saying, as the Zera Shimshon explains, why is the tsar of Avshalom great and the tsar of Gog and Magog not as great? Not that it won't be great. It's more of a why. And the reason is because by Gog and Magog, says David HaMelech, Klal Yisrael will be considered anusim. They will be considered forced. When a person loses his mind because of a pressure, because of the tremendous tsar, it's almost as he's forced to do an avera. Again, we're not here to discuss Cheshbonos Shemayim. Obviously, we have to follow the Torah, we have to follow the halachas, but unfortunately we don't know, right? But in certain situations, as we know throughout history, people were under tremendous difficulties, right? They weren't, as we say, sound of mind, and that caused them to do things that they normally wouldn't have done, and they can't be judged. And they're like anusim. So that, says David HaMelech, that they did an Aveira is kal. I can understand why they did the Aveira. But when it comes to me destroying my neshama, I can't explain it. Why? Because kosher tarbus ra. Why was Avshalom bad? Said David HaMelech. Because it's a reflection of me. David HaMelech says that Avshalom grew up in my house. And this that he's causing me to serve Avodah Zarah is not that I'm an oinus. It's my own fault. I wasn't mechanech him properly. Right? If chas v'shalom, a person's child eats nevelis yitreifes and he serves it to him, so whose fault is it? It's the parents' fault. Again, we're not talking about today, obviously. Today, we live in a much different world where people learn things, even if with the parents' best intention, that everything's accessible. But 100, 200 years ago, the only knowledge, the only education that a person had was from his parents. There was no other school, colleges, universities, YouTubes, all these things that a person could learn anything. The only education that a person had was from his parents. So David HaMelech said, why is Avshalom causing me to do Avodah Zarah? It's only because I didn't mechanech him properly. As the Gemara says, when a lady who's engaged is mezana with someone else, the Torah says, look at the parents, look at what you grew up, look what you raised. So whose fault is it? It's the parents' fault. And so much so that when they stone this lady, they stone the lady in front of her parents' house to teach the people that the parents are ultimately responsible for the children's action. Now again, today, fortunately or unfortunately, is a much different situation. People learn things from all different sorts of places, so the parents really almost have no control today. But in the days of David HaMelech, he said, Marabu Tzarai, why is so great? Tarbus Ra, because it's a reflection of me. As opposed to Gog and Magog, yes, there will be tremendous tsar, but it won't be the same level of tsar on the neshama because they are oinsim. They are forced because they won't become Klal Yisrael, won't become sound of mind. So the Melech is actually saying that the days of Gog and Magog could even be greater and worse than the days that Avshalom was trying to kill him. But when Avshalom was trying to kill him, and David HaMelech, whatever it means that he wanted to serve Avodah Zarah, was ultimately, David HaMelech said, was my fault. When Klal Yisrael does Averis and falls off the path, it's not their fault. It's only an oinus. And therefore he could not describe those days as Ma'rabu Tzarai, because it wasn't a tsar on the neshama. And Memela, as we see from here, the diuk that the Zera Shimshon makes on this pasuk, and today's learning should be Lilei Nishmasai, and it should be Me'etz Yoshe for us. Amen.